If I'm being honest today, that's the first time in my life I remember being broken. That's the first time in my life I remember asking God why. Why is this family not my blood? Why does my name have to be different? But the biggest why, I think, was why would a mother not want her son? That really cut deep. It's still painful today to think about. When I was 8 years old, I was at school and I had these friends of mine make fun of me. What they were saying is you're weird and different. I'm like, that's not nice. Why would you say that? And they said, well, you're the wrong color. I look at my hand as an 8-year-old little boy and I'm like, wait a minute. They're not lying. Like, my whole family's white. I'm brown. So obviously there's some questions I have. I come home that day. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed with my mom and I told her what happened. I was crying. And she told me that day that they actually brought me into their family when I was a 7-day-old child, as a foster child. She pauses in the conversation. She walks over to my closet, and on the top of this closet in a box, there's a 3-ring binder. So my birth certificate's in there. It's got my birth mom's name, Glenda Sue Holt, and then it has 7 pages of broken family history. And she puts her arm around me and she says, son, I love you. I always have and I always will. Even though I didn't give birth to you, the moment you were placed in my arms, you were my son. Once I found out I was adopted, life changed a little bit for me. What I pressed into is, you're not going to call me weird and different anymore, because I'm going to hit harder, run faster. A lot of that pursuit of that, like chasing that, even stems back from, why did my birth mom not want me? But there were so many times in my life that I thought about, seeking her out and looking for her, and I would come like that close, but something inside of my spirit would just say, no, the time's not now. Once I get to college, they had a youth ministry degree that I could pursue. But I think the most significant thing that happened in college, and probably the main reason the Lord took me there, was my wife. We want to start a family very early. We don't want to waste any time. About 3 months into our marriage, she was pregnant, but we lost that child at 8 weeks old to miscarriage. Then we have Isabella, who's our 16-year-old today. But our third pregnancy, 10 weeks old, we go in, have an ultrasound. There's a baby in the womb, but there's no heartbeat. It broke me because I was blaming myself for the loss of our babies because I still don't know any medical history. And the Lord just moves on my heart and he says, it's time to look for your mom. I bring out this paperwork from, 8 pages from 1982, and I get on Google and I'm name searching. I come across this website for Steve Holt. He's a magician and ventriloquist from Spartanburg, South Carolina. See, the Holt name was the same as my mom, so I'm like, okay, what's going on? Something just said inside of me, go on his bio. And literally all my paperwork that I have in front of me from 1982, the limited names and information I have, all of it's there. So at 27 years old, I'm meeting my birth uncle online that I didn't know existed. After that, I'm on a plane headed to Spartanburg, South Carolina. I don't know if my mom's alive. I don't know any history other than I just have to meet this guy. I have to be there. So meeting my birth uncle was a beautiful experience. He shared with me that he was one of 6 and all of them were mentally handicapped except for him. His parents died at an early age, so they were all put into orphanages, or some were in foster care, but none were ever adopted out. My mom was the youngest, and she only functioned as an 11-year-old mentally. When she was 18 years old, she aged out of the system and went into a mental facility. She became a ward of the state. She was actually raped by 5 men, and she gets pregnant with me. They see that she's showing, and then they start pressuring her, right? Because she has no money, no job, no family, no resources. So they're saying, you have to abort this child. But this 18-year-old woman, only 11-year-old capacity, said, you know what? No, my baby's worth fighting for. So she literally ran away from the facility, hitchhiked, we believe, got to Chattanooga, Tennessee, made it to a women's shelter. And then by the end of her pregnancy, 9 months pregnant, she's living in a cardboard box behind this old grocery store in a little town called Whitwell, Tennessee. That just happened to be where this family named the Hollands that had 4 kids of their own and had this miscarriage and were longing for one more baby boy. So when they got this call that the 7-day-old baby got dropped off at Human Services, they were like, we're not gonna let another one die. And you talk about painful. but also beautiful. Mixed emotions, because I mean, yeah, I don't want that to happen to my mom. But the fact that she fought for me and saw value in my life, I'm thankful to be here. In that moment, I was just like, man, she loved me. You know, those questions that you have, you know, starting at 8 years old. Why? I'm worth it. And then my uncle looks at me and he says, your mom's alive. She's 5 hours south of where we stand. And he asked me one question, do you want to meet her? So we jump in a car, drove 5 hours the next morning. So we get to this facility. If you think nursing home, that's kind of what it was. And I got to meet my mom. And my uncle decides, hey, let's lighten the mood a little bit, because it's going to be potentially heavy, obviously, for everybody, and we didn't know how she was going to react. So he does this magic show in the commons area for all the residents, and we have a camera rolling. And I come around and I start singing Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved. And when I hit Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved, I lost it. Start crying, because this woman that I'm looking at in the eyes, she literally saved my life. And she beautifully just finishes the whole verse. Like me, I once was lost. And then my uncle is in between us, and he actually gets to introduce us as mother and son for the first time.
You had a little boy when you were about 18, and you missed that little boy. His name is Steventhen William Holland. And this is him.
That embrace, even though, again, she's only 11-year-old mental capacity, she's still mom. She didn't see me as a 27-year-old man. She still saw me as her baby.
I love you, my son. I missed you so bad.
This is your boy.
You said you could talk, son. I love you.
He's a good boy. Let me
I'm your real mama.
You are his real mama.
You better if you know my heart, son. I want you to know that.
And
I would have gave you that if I couldn't kill you.
My mom absolutely is my hero. This 18-year-old, 11-year-old capacity, like, she valued life enough to, despite the odds of homelessness, mental, challenges, literally, no support. She didn't have one day of prenatal care. Literally, I make my living today sharing my story, and people's minds have been changed. They've been challenged on how they view this issue. The last 2 years, I had 39 national speaking engagements. I was the third most booked pro-life speaker in the country. I couldn't do what I do without my wife of 17 years, Rachel. She's an amazing mom, my 3 girls. Our nonprofit Broken Not Dead Ministries launched in March of 2018. We created this platform where other people can share their story, so we get to elevate the storyteller to bring hope and the gospel to broken people. If you're watching this right now and you're like me, you were conceived in rape, I just want to tell you that you have purpose, that you have worth, that you have value. And I know that my worth and value is not summed up in how I got conceived or how I came into this world. So I'm so thankful for the time that I got to be with my hero, with Mama Glenda. I had 11 beautiful years with her. She got to meet all 3 of her granddaughters that they call her Gigi, Grandma Glenda. When I started sharing on social media and that she had passed, I got floods of emails and text messages and said, listen, Mama Glenda has changed my life forever, my perspective on life, and she's not just your hero, she's mine. So, Mama Glenda, I love you. And thank you. Thank you for life.
Son, I love you from the bottom of my heart. First time that you was in my belly, I sang to you, I read nursery rhymes to you. I'm glad that you're here today. And Mama loves you.
Amazing Sing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like